Hello my people and welcome to the channel. Today we'll be looking at a personal favorite of mine, and that's the movie Strangers on a Train, expertly directed by the late great Alfred Hitchcock. This movie is about two guys whose meeting on a train thrusts them into a chilling tale that takes them both down a dark road. Guy Haines, a rising tennis star with dreams of political success, and Bruno Antony, a charismatic yet unsettling and unsettled figure who wants to get out from under his father's thumb. It's Bruno who comes up with a proposition that will change their lives forever. As always, Alfred Hitchcock takes you on a thrill ride through the shadows of the human soul, where the line between right and wrong blurs and the price of temptation is steep. Classic Hitchcock. And as a special treat, Alfred's very own daughter, Patricia Hitchcock, appears as the kid sister of Guy's love interest, Anne. So buckle up and brace yourself for a great story. And be on the lookout for Alfred Hitchcock, who does a cameo early on in the movie. Are you ready? Well then, let the show begin. The movie opens with Guy Haines riding home from work. He's seated in the train's dining car when he notices the accidental bumping of the feet of two strangers within the closed quarters of the dining car. He sees it, then he digs in for the ride home, apparently with something on his mind. He clearly has an attitude about something. Next, we see a pretty snazzy pair of black and white shoes entering the car and stretching out and having a seat. Right after that, we see a regular pair of black shoes that may have seen a little wear. Reminiscent of the prior scene, these 2 feet bump, and Guy says, "Excuse me." He pulls out a book and he starts to read. As he's reading, the individual sitting across from him recognizes him, saying, "Hey, aren't you Guy Haines, the tennis player?" And he gets out of his seat and moves over to where Guy is sitting to sit next to him. He introduces himself. He's Bruno Antony. He then tells Guy that he doesn't talk much and he can go on reading, which makes me curious because you got up out of your seat and you sat right next to this dude whom you don't know until this very point, which is contrary to not wanting to talk or to bother someone. You're sitting next to him, leaning on the table he's got his book on, and some would say you're all up in his personal space. Guy goes back to reading, and he's barely turned the page when Bruno is talking again. "Oh, it must be exciting to be so important," he says. Guy's a tennis player, or I guess you would say a tennis pro, while Bruno says of himself that he never seems to do anything. Self-deprecating much? Then Bruno goes on to ask Guy if he's going to Southampton for the doubles. So this guy knows who Guy is, and so at the end of the day, he's not so much a stranger. Then he offers Guy a cigarette. Guy declines. Bruno pats his clothes, apparently looking for a light, and Guy offers him his lighter. Bruno notices that the lighter is expensive. He lights a cigarette and looks at the engraving on the lighter, from A to G, G being Guy, and Bruno tells him he bets he can guess who A is, and he says Anne Morton. He says he doesn't just read the sports page, but the society page as well. Anne Morton is Senator Morton's daughter. He says she's very beautiful, and Guy tells him that, well, you sound like quite the reader. He tells Guy he is.
Ask me anything, I got the answer. Even news about people I don't know. Like, who would like to marry whom when his wife gets her divorce.
Guy's offended, and Bruno gives this fake apology. Okay, I'm a little bit more than offended. I'm super curious. So let me get this right. You know who I am. You know what I do for a living. You know that I have a relationship with Senator Morton's daughter. And you know I'm waiting on a divorce. You know a whole bunch about me. Now, I know I'm a tennis pro. I know apparently this famous guy. But I personally would feel hinky when I meet some dude I don't know and he knows this stuff about me. Especially, it's one thing to know that I'm a tennis pro. It's a whole different gig when you know that I want to divorce my wife so I can marry the senator's daughter. I would start paying attention now, if this was me, to everything that's coming out this dude's mouth. Because what the heck? Okay? Is it me, or is this starting to sound just a touch hinky? Bruno blows it off.
Perhaps you read too much. Oh, there I go again. Too friendly. It always happens. I meet somebody who I like and admire, and I open my...
I'm still paying attention to you, bro. Later, the pair is sharing a lavish meal in what appears to be a private car. And Bruno asks Guy about the perfect way to get rid of somebody, perfect way to knock somebody off.
Want to hear one of my ideas for a perfect murder?
I may be old-fashioned, but I thought murder was against the law.
What is a life for two guys? Some people are better off dead. Like your wife and my father, for instance.
Guy says he doesn't want to hear it, yet Bruno keeps talking, saying that some people are better off not alive. Guy's wife and his father for two. Guy doesn't say a thing. He's not offended or shocked or wondering what the heck is this dude doing bringing up my wife and knocking somebody off in the same breath. Now, if he want to talk about his daddy that way, that's one thing. But why is he saying this about my wife in the same breath of not aliving somebody? Again, he's not offended or shocked or wondering anything weird about this dude. And Bruno carries on the conversation.
Oh, that reminds me of a wonderful idea I had once. I used to put myself to sleep at night, figuring it out.
Okay, you getting this, peeps? I believe him. I believe he stayed awake night after night for weeks, months, and years trying to figure out how to get rid of his domineering daddy without being implicated. And the only safe plan he could come up with would involve a stranger he had no ties to. And this involved stranger would need to be as desperate as he is. This stranger would equally need someone he needed to get rid of. And I believe Bruno saw this in Guy. Now, I'm not giving anything away early in the story. This isn't even a part of this story. This is me feeling that him meeting Guy isn't so random. He knows all about Guy as a tennis pro. Okay, I'm going to give you that. If you know how to read a newspaper, then okay, maybe you follow this dude. However, he knows stuff about his and Anne's relationship, that Anne's the senator's daughter. He knows that Guy wants to divorce his wife. He presumes perhaps that Guy is desperate. And the fact that Guy isn't shutting this dude down convinces, I believe, Bruno of that. Guy puts up this weak argument against Bruno continuing, but he doesn't shut him down. He doesn't shut him down. He doesn't get up offended. He doesn't leave. He seems to be a passive listener, entertaining this dude's conversation about him wanting his wife off. So Bruno, like I think any dude who wants to get rid of his dad and got the perfect plan, Bruno lays it all
Here's
out.
my idea.
I'm afraid I haven't got time to listen, Bruce.
Listen, two fellows meet accidentally, like you and me. No connection between them at all. Each one has somebody that he'd like to get rid of. Like you do mine, I do yours.
Two strangers meeting, and each one offs the person the other wants to get rid of. Guy gets to his stop, but before he leaves, Bruno asks him if he thinks, hey, you think this is a good idea, dude? Guy, in a placating type of a manner, chuckles and says, oh yeah, okay, this is cool. He chuckles and leaves. Bruno, on the other hand, figures this is it, eureka. I can finally put my plan into action. He turns to see that Guy has left behind his lighter. He doesn't go after Guy. Guy can't be off the train already. Train hasn't even stopped. He could chase after Guy and hand him his lighter. But peeps, he doesn't do that. He hangs on to the lighter. And this lighter is going to become very, very crucial. As for Guy, he exits at his stop. Peeps, take a look at who's getting on as he's getting off. And then we next see Guy with his wife, Miriam. She's counting money that Guy has given her to pay for a divorce lawyer. Miriam isn't astute. She says she's not getting a divorce lawyer. And by the way, I'm pregnant and the baby isn't yours. They go into a booth to talk. You know what? That is so toe up. But again, Miriam does not look like she is stupid. She knows what time it is. She knows what's going on. And she's not letting Guy get rid of her, quote unquote, so easily, so he can go and live his best life ever. Oh no, she ain't even about to start playing that. They go in a booth to talk. Guy lays hands on her. He's livid. I don't think he's worked up because Sister Girl is pregnant by some other guy, because it's not like he isn't cheating with the senator's daughter, Anne. So they both appear to be stepping out in this marriage, living their own separate little lives. I think what has him all on fire is that he wants out of this marriage, and she is not going to let him out.
Heard what I said, Guy Haines. You can't throw me away like an old shoe. I'm coming to Washington to have my baby. Tell on to the Senate.
Guy calls in and he is hot. Brother man is livid. He tells Anne that Miriam is not letting him out of the marriage so they can get married. In his anger, Guy says he could choke her sister out.
And I could strangle her.
Now we see Bruno at home with his mom, who's trimming his nails. Okay, like that ain't weird, but let's keep going. She's apparently an overly doting mom, and this dude apparently has a domineering father. And so between the two of them, I can clearly understand how you get one messed up kid out of this. Come on, peeps, you see how he's holding his fingers? That is an odd position, and I notice he does it a couple of times through this movie. He says he likes his nails to look just right, but I think he likes his fingers to look just right too. His mom says he looks pale. Is he out of vitamin? And he tells her he took the whole bottle yesterday, a whole fifth. Okay, dude. And as they're talking, she tells him that she hopes he's given up his silly plan on taking out the White House, where he responds he was only fooling. And peeps, I don't think he was just fooling. I think this guy has a really dark way of seeing things, a dark and destructive way of seeing things, and nobody is seeing that quite yet because he keeps this dark side of himself apparently fairly well hidden. Everything is all chuckles until his mom tells him to shave before his father gets home.
Now get shaved before your father gets home.
I'm sick and tired of bowing and scraping to the king.
No. Now let's not lose control. Come see my painting.
He says he's tired of bowing down and scraping before the king. And she tells him to, okay, let's not lose control, which means that, okay, he has a habit of losing control. So there's something there. And then she asks him to come and look at her painting. And he laughs. He is laughing his head off. It is a hideous kind of monstrous thing, and Bruno is laughing and saying that that's the old man.
Oh, Mother, you're wonderful. That's the old boy, all right. That's Father.
Okay, so we clearly can understand how he feels about his dad. So Bruno, who lives in Arlington, Washington, travels to Metcalf, and I believe that's in New York, where Guy's wife lives, to take care of his half of the supposed bargain. Now, it looks like Bruno has tracked down Miriam, and she's leaving her house with 2 dudes. Okay. Okay, girl. This chick is something else. 2 dudes, really? Okay. I suspect one of these dudes is the baby daddy, but we don't keep on moving. Oh, wow. Alfred, really? Alfred, you know what, dude, you scandalous. That's all I got to say, especially for it's 1951 when this movie came out. Alfred, you scandalous. But anyway, Bruno follows them to the fairground. Miriam at some point notices Bruno, but it's not a scary kind of, ooh, this dude is a creep. No, she notices him noticing her, and to her, this is flirtatious. And so now she's giving Bruno the flirty side eye. And keep in mind, she already with 2 dudes. Okay, Miriam. So Miriam and the 2 dudes get on I would call it a lover's lane kind of ride. And he's following right behind them. They enter a tunnel, and all you can do is hear Miriam laughing and screaming and hooting and hollering and having a grand old time, and she's tussling around and playing around with these guys, and Bruno is in the boat, literally right on their tail. Alfred is great at his use of camera angles and shadows. All of this is just playing out against the walls of this carnival ride area, and as a result, it's conveying a deeper sense and a deeper scene of one boat following the others. Shadows have a tendency to be a little bit more sinister, and it is setting and creating a sinister mood. So they land on this hideaway island with Bruno not far behind them. Bruno docks and then follows them. Miriam and the 2 dudes are playing I'm running, you chasing, screaming and laughing it up all along the way. As for Bruno, he is tracking this chick like a predator. As Miriam loses the 2 dudes and they're running around calling out for her, looking for her, she bumps into Bruno and she recognizes him. So she's not afraid. he clicks the lighter close to her face so he can take a look at her, and he asks if she's Miriam. When she acknowledges that she is, he chokes her out.
Is your name Miriam?
Oh, yes. How did you...
Her glasses fall off, the lighter falls in the grass as well, and we see the whole choking out scene in the lenses of her glasses. Now, how about that for a great camera angle? Alfred in his day was the best. After the deed is done, he picks the items up, the glasses and the cigarette lighter, and leaves. The next scene finds him across the street from Guy's home, waiting for Guy to show up. Guy shows up, sees this dude standing across the street and going, "What the heck?" He goes over and Bruno tells Guy that the deed is done. He shows him Miriam's glasses. And Guy calls him, "Dude, you're a maniac." But Bruno reminds him, look, dude, we planned this out on the train together. You remember us doing that? See how Guy distances himself by stepping away from Bruno.
Where are you going?
Where do you think I'm going? I'm gonna call the police, of course.
But you can't, Guy. We'd both be arrested for murder.
We'd both be arrested for murder.
Bruno asks him where he going, and Guy says, "Where do you think I'm going? I'm gonna go call the coppers." Bruno says that, then I guess we both gonna get arrested for taking Sister Girl out. Now, see how Alfred cuts between Bruno and Guy? Guy's on one side of the gate, where Bruno's on the other side of the gate. As Alfred switches between the two, it literally looks like each of them is behind jail bars. I think that is such a great, subtle message that Alfred is getting across. And you know what? That's some serious symbolism. Now, you got Bruno running his mouth going, "How you think the coppers not gonna believe you're not a part of this? I got no ties to this chick, dude. I don't even live here." Guy says he had nothing to do with this and the cops will believe him. Dude, you don't even believe the words that are coming out your own mouth. I can look at you and tell that. Guy knows Bruno has the better argument. At the end of the day, Guy is the one with the motive, not Bruno.
Oh, come now, Guy. Why should I go to Metcalf to kill a total stranger? Unless it was part of the plan and you were in on it. You're the one who benefits, Guy. You're a free man now.
Heck, Guy is probably sitting there remembering I cut a fool at my wife's job. And then she turns up choked out the very same day. While the two of them are going back and forth, the cop shows up. And what does Guy do? Does he run across the street and say, "Hey, y'all, the killer's over here, the killer's over here"? No. He goes around the gate and hides right beside Bruno. From this point forward, they're both complicit. At some point, Guy leaves and goes to Anne's home, where she lives with her dad, who's a senator, and her kid sister, Barbara. Again, who's played by Alfred Hitchcock's own daughter. This character is the proverbial sweet, bratty little sister. I really enjoyed watching her through this movie. She says what's ever on her mind, and she has practically no filter at all. Guy pretends all is well, then they tell him that Miriam's been took out, and he has to fake shock.
Miriam murdered.
And I lean on the words fake shock because I'm sorry. I don't care how estranged from my partner I am. If somebody told me that my estranged partner had been found choked out, I'm going to be on the floor. Somebody's going to hand me an Emmy Award because I'm going to be rolling around on that floor crying, snotting, yelling, shrieking. I'm not just going to sit in the chair, and I know sometimes, everybody don't act up. Sometimes all you can do is sit down shocked, but at least fake the shock a little bit better. Anne goes on to tell him that Miriam was choked out.
She was strangled.
And Guy looks at her, and I'm sure they're both thinking of that earlier phone conversation where Guy was saying that he could just choke that sister out. The dad, who's a senator, tells Guy he has nothing to worry about, but the kid's sister, who is the voice of reason, says,
if he has an alibi for 9:30 tonight, he has plenty to worry about.
You're going to have something to worry about if you don't have an alibi. And Guy says that at the time of the choking outness, he was on a train on his way to Washington. When the senator asked, did somebody see him perhaps? He thought about it and he says, you know what? I did talk to a guy. He was a professor from a Delaware college, and he names the professor. All of this makes Guy, as well as the senator and his girlfriend Anne, a bit more comfortable. Guy does apologize that, okay, this is going to turn into something, and I'm sorry, you're liable to have reporters on your doorstep.
There'll be a lot of reporters at your front door in the morning.
Oh, Daddy doesn't mind a little scandal. He's a senator.
The conversation turns to Miriam for a moment, and while the senator has kinder remarks to make, kid sister Barbara is a little bit more harsher.
Poor unfortunate girl.
She was a tramp.
She was a human being. Let me remind you that even the most unworthy of us has a right to life and the pursuit of happiness.
From what I hear, she pursued it in all directions.
So Guy goes to the police with his story, but as you can see, they've got a couple of officers tailing him. The senator suggests to Guy that he work from their home for a while, I guess until things kind of cool down. By the by, Bruno is getting tired of dealing with his pops, who's still in the land of the living. Bruno starts to bug Guy. Hey, when are you going to finish up your part of this bargain? He calls Guy on the telephone. Guy ignores him. Bruno becomes more determined. Guy is someplace and he looks up and Bruno is there. He sends him a written message. Then he sends Guy a drawing of the layout of the house with a key attached. Still being ignored. Finally, Bruno fronts him in public, and Anne sees this from a distance. So now Guy, who is a tennis pro, is at a doubles match. And who should be sitting in the crowd? Bruno. Peeps, this guy is not going to be ignored. He's going to increasingly encroach himself more and more and more into Guy's life. After the match, Guy finds Bruno sitting in the patio area with Anne and another couple. Can you imagine Bruno is sitting right next to Anne? Anne introduces Guy to Bruno as a friend of this couple. Soon, the kid's sister shows up and asks Guy about Bruno. The kid's sister goes over to the table and Bruno looks at her and all but freezes.
How are you?
Delightful to see you, Miss Barbara. How sweet you look.
I hope you aren't forgetting our little party on Thursday, Madame.
We're planning on it.
Well, of course.
This is my sister Barbara. Barbara, this is Mr. Antony.
How do you do?
Bruno is still staring at her. He hears carnival music. She sorta kinda reminds you of Miriam, doesn't she? So here it is, Thursday rolls around, and Guy shows up at the party at the senator's house. He's talking about the M word, M-U-R-D-E-R word, and notice Anne in the background, casting glances in Bruno's direction. Bruno starts up a chat with a couple of the guests, telling them everybody wants to off somebody, and they start talking details. How would you go about it? And one of them goes back and forth with Bruno. Then he tells her that he can show her the best way to knock somebody off if he could borrow her neck.
Well, I have the best way and the best tool. Let me show you what I mean. You don't mind if I borrow your neck for a moment, do you?
Well, if it's not for long.
All right, now.
She says sure. He puts his hands around her throat, telling her she won't be able to cry out, which makes this the perfect method to use. Just at that moment, Barbara, the kid's sister, walks up and observes the scene. Right in the middle of his demo, Bruno spots the kid's sister and he freezes. They lock stares, and he's choking this woman out with his eyes still locked on Barbara, as if his hands had a whole life of their own. He's locked in on the kid's sister. He's hearing the carnival music, and I know this dude has got to be thinking about Miriam, because there are certain similarities between the two. While he is just so locked in, focused on the kid's sister, he starts to choke this woman out. They literally have to pry his hands from around her neck, and then Bruno passes out. Guy tells the senator, hey, I barely know this dude.
He was a bit weird when he arrived. Who is he?
I hardly know him, sir.
Well, get him out of here as soon as you decently can, will you? This is a nice item for the gossips.
Guy is talking to Anne, and he finally confesses to her. What is the first thing that comes out of Anne's mouth?
How did you get him to do it?
Whoa. The first thing coming out of your mouth is your man is complicit in this. Now, you're supposed to know this dude better than anybody knows him. And the first thought in your head is you're complicit in this. I think at this point, God says, you know what? This has to stop. Because this is a train running amok, and it's going to derail real soon, and it's not going to be good for me. So what does Guy do? He goes over to Bruno's house to confess to the dad. Well, Bruno ain't no stoop. He has already anticipated this, and he is standing there waiting for Guy with a gun in his hand.
Don't worry, I'm not going to shoot you, Mr. Haines. It might disturb Mother. I'm a very clever fellow. I'll think of something better than that. Much better.
Now, the whole deal has gone from you need to hold up your end of the bargain to, you know what? I'm done trying to beg you to finish your end of this bargain. I got something for you. And it's going to be better than just shooting you, so you don't have to be scared and start shaking because I got this gun on you. You see, peeps, Bruno has come to the conclusion that Guy is not going to off his dad. So he's going to have to do something to protect himself, to save himself. And if you will remember, he's got Guy's lighter. Anne, who knows everything, goes to see Bruno with the hope of pleading on Guy's behalf. Sister, you should have called me on the phone and I would have saved you a wasted car trip. Bruno leaves her with the idea that that is so not going to happen. And he also leaves her with the clear idea that he's going to somehow frame Guy. So now here we are back at the scene of the crime. Bruno gets the lighter that he's stashed away, and he goes over to the boat rental area, and he's simply standing there waiting for dark so he can go over to the island and plant the lighter. Guy figures Bruno is gonna go over to the island and plant the lighter where Miriam's body was found, and he races off to intercept him. Now remember, he's being tailed by the coppers, so when he races off to the carnival, the cops are racing off right behind him. Now, I don't know why this cop shot this one dude. I can only surmise that he was aiming for Guy maybe, and he seriously missed and hit the carousel operator instead of Guy or Bruno. I don't know who he was aiming at. And so he takes out the carousel operator, and the carousel starts to run amok. A fight breaks out between the pair while people and kids are screaming for their very lives. Ultimately, another carnival guy is able to shut down the carousel. The carousel kind of dislodges from its track and in part lands on top of Bruno. Guy says to Bruno, "Hey, tell the truth. Tell them that you did this. You've got my lighter. You were going to frame me." And apparently, Bruno is saying, "I'm taking this hot mess to my grave. I'm going to get you one way or another." And so he's laying there going, "I don't know nothing about no lighter." And he is still pointing to Guy as the one who took out Miriam. Bruno has this whole, okay, I'm leaving planet Earth scene that I would have thought would have been a little bit more emotional and engaging, but apparently not. And as he expires, his hand comes open and he's holding the lighter. Roughly around the same time, you've got a guy who says, "Hey, I saw the whole deal, and Guy isn't the killer. The guy who has the carousel on top of him, he is the real killer." And so we've got Guy exonerated by two means. Number one, he's got his lighter from the hands of the guy who really took Miriam out, and there's a witness. And that's pretty much it. You know, he asked the guy where there's a telephone. Apparently, we can surmise that he's going to call Anne on the phone and let Anne know that everything is cool, everything is great, and it is over, and they can start their fairy tale lives together. All right, my peeps, that's it. That's Strangers on the Train. What I enjoyed so much about the movie is seeing it again. I probably haven't seen this movie in 20, 30 years. It's been long, which is one of the things I really enjoy about sharing this space with y'all. Peeps, is the fact that I'm looking at movies I hadn't seen in a while, and I'm reminiscing and I'm remembering just how much I really did enjoy them. Strangers on a Train, to me, this is a good movie. I love the premise of, okay, you take out the person I won't took out, and I'll take out the person you won't took out. There's certain holes in it that, okay, I didn't care a whole bunch for. Farley Granger, the guy who plays the Guy character, he's a little stiff, but all in all, and I just love the Bruno character. I thought he played that well. He could have gone overboard from a kind of psycho-ish standpoint, but I think he just walked the trail of somebody who was slightly unhinged and slightly unsettled. I think he walked that trail very well. And again, I love Alfred Hitchcock's directing of a movie. And so you guys are probably going to see a lot of Alfred's work, because I think he is just so good at the craft of tension, of suspense, of dark. And I think he is extremely good at telling the human story. Everything isn't all color and roses. Alfred will show you how messed up people are and how messed up people can be. And he delves into the psyche and the psychology of the human mind and the human emotions and why people do what they do. He delves into that so very well. Okay, peeps, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope that you will go and look for a full copy of this movie and watch it from beginning to end for yourselves. As always, I enjoy your company. I so appreciate you, my community, my subscribers. I appreciate you so much. If you liked it, like. If you liked it, share it. Just shoot it out there to a friend. Or invite a friend over and sit around and look at the content. Alrighty? You guys take it easy. And again, I appreciate you so much. Until next time.